Well, one of my great regrets in my consulting career is not many job offers came my way. um, and that's and that's true. I was just musing on that. I had several over time. They all involved an unthinkable thing, like moving from Chicago to Dallas. And there's nothing wrong with Dallas, but when your family and kids are here and they're embedded, that's not going to work out. A CEO who says you would be the next in line, but he's only 2 years older than you are, and he's not going to retire early, that sort of thing. So he's looking for somebody to basically carry his water while he runs for the door. So those are the kinds of things that would happen. In my younger years, I never entertained any offers because I never thought there was anything better than being a management consultant. That's just the way it was. I thought I died and gone to heaven when I got into the consulting business. I had everything I wanted out of a job and out of life. I love the travel. I love the clients. I love the problem solving. I love the sales proposition. I love the intellectual process. I love the give and take and the games you play with the clients and so on, and who's ahead and who's behind. And all that was just perfect as far as I was concerned, so they could have offered me the sun and the moon, and I wouldn't have taken it at all. So I had a little bit of different experience on that, and I had no interest in leaving, and I guess I wasn't available.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to open this up to all of you. Are you more likely to hire a consultant based on a recommendation from a peer? It could be a peer at your company, a peer at a different company, a board member. Or is there maybe a completely different mechanism? Do you actually do a bidding process? How does that all come together, and how much of a part of relationships and referrals is a part of that process? Joyce?
In our organization, we have a very formal process, so it's, we'll do an RFP and list out what we're looking for, and then we get projects that we have the bids come in. Most of it is from a relationship, a prior relationship, because we'll be working on actuarial projects or IT consulting work, so we have a track record with those people. But that's not to say that we wouldn't consider someone else. And it goes back to a comment I had made earlier that it's important to, do some homework, understand the assignment, and be able to give examples of how what you've done previously could meet our need. So there are smaller projects that we have where we will talk to other consultants that we haven't worked with before. But it's also comments that others have made, it's the communication is so important. And I think that if there's a meeting of the minds on how to work together, there's a better opportunity for success.
Someone else?
So we're a very small organization, and I'll say the last couple of consultants that we've hired have come from having a personal relationship with this person who learned enough about our organization to see some places where they thought they could create some benefit for us. They actually created their own consulting opportunity by getting to know us, maybe as a volunteer, maybe from seeing what we did on the web and just checking in with us. So I wouldn't eliminate the opportunity that you could even self-refer your consulting business to us, but it wouldn't happen by sending me an email saying we do search engine optimization. So I'm not going to respond to that. But if you call me up and say, hey, I was on your website and I'm really interested in what you're doing, and you engage me in conversation, along the way, you start asking me questions about how many hits am I getting on my website? Do I know what those people are doing? And I'll tell you I'm clueless about that. And then you ask, well, would you want some support around that? You've now engaged me in that sales thing because you were interested in what I was doing first. And so, or you could get to me through one of my board members. So I would urge you to take a look at the kinds of people you want to work with in the smaller organizations and see how you can embed yourself in the organization and maybe get hired.
Richard?
you've touched on a really important point. And it's, you know, it's difficult to get in the door and get in front of somebody. But I think one of the points, implicit points that Bruce was making is that the art of questions is really what it's all about. I've never sold anything telling somebody how good it's going to be. It's asking the right questions at the right time, picking up the vibrations, figuring out where this person's going, being one step ahead and asking the next question. And sure enough, if you take that in the right sequence in the right way, it moves very, very quickly around to a point of, well, I really feel confident in this person. And again, getting back to the human dynamics, buying a consultant is a high-risk, high-reward issue. And the buyer has to have confidence, trust that this person is going to be able to know about the business, know about the process, know about the people, and so on. And asking those questions in just the right way is one of the key things. And if you can do that, you're going to sell business anywhere, really. Not everywhere, but anywhere. Okay.
Great, thank you. We'll do one more question, and while I'm asking this question, remember that you're going to be submitting cards, so you have that flyer that you were given inside your program, so take some time and jot down some questions. And I'm going to ask one more question of the panel while you're doing that, and I would also mention that if you do need a cab when you leave tonight, we're going to have someone going down to the lobby to order those cabs, and she'll be doing that in just a moment. So if you did need a cab and you want it ordered for you so that you're not waiting, you know, say 15 minutes at the end, please, you know, make sure you go out now and let us know, and then she'll go ahead and take those downstairs in a few minutes. So the last question I have before we hear the wonderful questions from the participants here is on the concept of pro bono consulting. As a consultant myself, I have had pro bono competitions where I've had not-for-profits submit an application, and then I select one organization that'll be my pro bono client of the year. And I've had some excellent experiences with that, and then I've had some disappointing experiences. And I find that sometimes when a client is not paying for something, they're a little less diligent in being timely with their side of the equation, which is interesting because they're getting something for free. What has been your experiences with pro bono consulting, and how do you see that fitting in, if it does fit in? Any of you want to start? We'll ask each of you. So whoever wants to jump in, Bruce?
I'll start because I was one of Shelley's disappointing pro bono clients.
You're one of the good ones.
Oh, okay. You know, I think it's interesting. Again, I'm going to go back to its level of expectation. So pro bono sounds great to the organization, but there are no free lunches. So if you're going to come in and do some consulting for me, it's how many hours are you expecting from the executive director, from the director of marketing, from the board members, whoever you're going to engage so you can do your job. When Shelley's company, you know, Shelley did the work for us, I think it was a real challenge for her to get my board members engaged in the process. I remember, I think you sent out 14 evaluations and got 3 back. And then I made phone calls and she got 1 more. And so, you know, she did a lot of work and didn't get a lot of response. So I think, first of all, be careful when you agree to do this, that you set reasonable expectations. But make sure that you understand what the costs are to the free stuff that you're doing both for yourself and for the client before you get started. And make it clear I had no idea when I started with Shelley on that how much work it potentially was going to be for me to support her to do the good job that I needed back. And so it turned out to be much more of a challenge being free.
I do want to just mention, I was not singling Bruce out. He was actually considered one of the good ones. So that gives you a perspective on what some of the others
I was disappointed in how we supported Michelle.
You have to use the mic
Okay.
for the podcast.
I'm sorry. I was disappointed on how we supported Michelle, not with the ultimate outcome of the project, but I was disappointed with how we organized ourselves to take advantage of this really wonderful offer. So I feel bad about how we participated in the project, not how she participated in the project.
How many of you are trust fund babies? I don't see any hands going up. So I'm going to make the assumption that when you're in consulting, you're in business for a purpose, and that is to sell business, deliver business, and make money. I personally never did pro bono work.
Never.
Never, never. If I would...
And it worked out pretty well for you.
Well, no, but I would serve on a board of a good institution, and I would make a contribution if it was something my wife and I are interested in supporting.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never do pro bono work for an organization. Now, sometimes it turned out that they may not pay you and they'd stiff you, and it turns out to be inadvertently pro bono. But if you're in business, you're in business. And rather than spending time on something like that, you might say, well, listen, why don't I join your board? I'll get to meet all the board members anyway. I'll make a contribution. It's cheaper to do that. And spend your time out there knocking on doors someplace where you might get a real live one that's got a checkbook.
Okay, good, thank you. And of course, Richard, think of it this way. You're on the School of Business Advisory Board, and we work our advisory board's members pretty hard. Case in point that they're here tonight. So I consider that pro bono work.
I'm at the enabler stage of my life.
Okay. All right, so at this point, we'd really like to hear from all of you. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and raise your hand if you have something filled out for us, or Judith will collect those and bring them up. Okay, and while she's doing that, Noel's going to add to what we were just talking about.
I just want to say, our company has been highly successful, and part of our give back is we're not doing pro bono work, but for a 501c3, we deeply, deeply discount our rate. And a lot of that is, we're taking our profit out of it, but we're still paying our consultant. One thing on that, though, for a 501c3, even though they're paying a quote-unquote discounted rate, it's a bigger financial burden a lot of times than it is, for a Blue Cross or, big organization. They have deep pockets for these type of things. The 501c3 is really stretching to have this consultant in to help their organization. So in many cases, they're actually bending over backwards to help us out and help us do our job as quickly as possible so that they can get something great for the organization that they couldn't otherwise afford.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we have we have a lot of questions here, and I hope everyone's handwriting is really great. The first one I can read well, so I'm going to start with that. When starting out as a new consultant, do you recommend engaging at a reduced rate to get business and a recommendation versus charging perhaps a full rate? So who would like to take that one? Richard, did you ever charge a reduced rate to get business? I have a feeling you did not.
I did not as time went on. But let's be practical about it. This is a business. You have hours. Those hours can't be stored. You can't put them on a shelf. We used to have a saying, and that was sell today, bill today. And if you went through the day, you didn't sell the business, you didn't collect, you didn't invoice somebody, there it's gone. It's gone forever. It's a resource you used up. So the answer is you do what you have to do in order to fill up that day with something. And if you discount it, you discount it. That's great. And you don't know what's going to lead to the next thing. But be practical. You are in business, and you are in business to generate revenues and make money. So you do what you have to do.